Okay, yeah. 5x minus what? Whoa. Is less than or equal to 4.
Negative y.
Okay, remember yesterday we graphed some lines, today we're graphing more lines, but what's the difference? Inequality. So that means what? Shading, solid and dashed lines. So, but just like yesterday, when the line is in standard form like this, what do I need to do first? Change its slope-intercept form, get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract the 5x to get rid of it on the left. What do we do with that negative in front of the y?
Divide it.
Yeah, basically it's a -1, so we're dividing everything by -1. But the only thing that happens when you divide by -1 is the sign switch. Positive 5x minus 4. But also when you're doing inequalities, the inequality symbol switches as well. Alright, where do I start the graph at? Down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where do I go from there?
Up 5/1.
Yeah, 5 or 5/1. So that's my rise and my run. So from this point, I'm going to rise 5 and run 1. Speed out at 1, 1.
Do you create a third one or no?
Wait, Mr.
Yeah, let's go ahead and make a third, yeah.
Two things. Do we have to graph this second off? Whenever you put the 5/1, is that the 1 that's in front of the x? Or no? Like, how do you get that 1?
Okay, if any whole number like 7 can be written as 7/1.
So you're basically coming up,
If it's not a fraction, you can turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1.
and that's how you're going to start graphing.
Because you want the rise over the run. You want it in fraction. So yeah, if I rise and run 5 again, 5 and 1, goes way up there.
Or just put it in negative?
Okay, is this line going to be solid or dashed? Solid. Whoa, boy. Try again. Yeah, close enough. All right. Am I shading above or below? Above. Y is greater than. That's how you read that. So you're going greater than the line, above the line. So that would be this side. Probably forgot 27. If I wasn't helping you with 27, you'd probably just turn back to page 87 or whatever page it was on and copy the book's graph of that. You guys remember what that graph looked like?
Was it a V?
No. V is for absolute values, so that'd be like 28.
Oh, I'm looking at 28.
27 was, you guys remember what they called that function?
Greatest integer function?
Greatest integer function. Basically means everything rounded. Like if x were, let's say, 0.5, for example, the y value would be 0, because it rounds it down to the next lowest integer. If x were 1.5, the y value would be 1. So what it ended up looking like, closed circle at 1 because 1 rounds down to 1. 1, 1, and an open circle. Anyway, let's just do like, it goes forever, so, you know, I'll do a couple negatives over here.
Can't see.
No, it's the same thing over and over again.
So, can you like help me understand how you got the 0.5 and 0?
I just made them up
Why would you do that?
as an example to remind you what the function does. Also, it kind of helps figure out what the graph should look like. At 0.5, the graph should be at 0. At 1.5, the graph should be at 1. 2.5, 2. Some examples.
So you're just, anytime you see that thing, the f, and then parentheses x, and then the other x.
Well, the brackets is what makes it. You could have f of x equals x, and that's basically y equals x, with a slope of 1 and y-intercept of 0.
Yeah. So then you
It's the
just-
brackets that make it the greatest integer function.
Okay. So whenever, just if the parentheses or the brackets of the x, you're just gonna do that.
All right, let's talk about 28. What shape does the absolute values make? V. How does that x minus 4, how does that minus 4 move the graph?
Go right to the right.
Right, 4. When it's directly on the x, it affects the x motion left and right, but it does the opposite of what it looks like. So minus 4 actually moves it right 4. If it's outside of the absolute values, it moves it up and down.
What?
But there is nothing outside. So you just put a vertex right 4 and then make a V. Okay, 20, oh, everybody's favorite. You guys got lucky, this is an odd. And it's a weird one to boot. When it says, guys, when it says f of x equals, that's like saying y equals, okay? That's interchangeable for y. So f of x is basically one variable. The whole thing is just one. It just means that the f value depends on x. So the y-axis is kind of like the f of x axis, same thing. All right. What did it say? 2 if this one's really weird. Very little chance we'll get a clear understanding. I'm just copying the problem down so right now. Okay. So usually, you guys remember on these problems, they give us like a range of x values, something like this. And if it said something like this for x's between -2 and 1, that would be from here, -2 to here, 1. That's where those x values are. So you just make the graph in that region. This one's weirder than normal because it doesn't give us that. If the absolute value of x, this kind of goes back to chapter 1, is less than 2, what x values would that include?
1.
Okay, you guys remember doing this in chapter 1? If it's absolute value less than, then you set it between the two numbers. Like that. It's 1, 0, -1. Everything between -2 and 2. So let's exchange that with that. And what does this mean? This is super tricky. So from chapter 1, if absolute value of x is greater than 2, that basically means it's greater than or equal to 2 or less than or equal to -2. So the first thing we're supposed to draw is f of x equals 2, which is the same thing as y equals 2. What does the graph of y equals 2 look like?
It's a horizontal line.
Yes, y equals 2, but it's only supposed to be between negative 2 and 2. So x equals negative 2 is like this line, x equals 2 is this line. Do not draw those lines, by the way. This is just for a visual. We're supposed to draw the line y equals 2 between there. Is it going to get to negative 2 and 2? No. So that means I'm going to put open circles at negative 2 and draw a line between. Do not draw those vertical lines. That was just... Didn't even say goodbye. Alright, we drew the line y equals 2, which is a horizontal line through y equals 2, between the x values of negative 2 and 2. That's what just happened. Now, the second part is we're supposed to draw f of x equals absolute value of x, or y equals absolute value of x. What did that look like? What did that graph look like? V. However, we're not going to draw the v between here and here. We're going to draw it for x values less than or equal to negative 2 and greater than or equal to 2.
So basically it starts at the end.
From here to the left, that's less than or equal to negative 2 on the x. And from here to the right is greater than or equal to 2.
Oh, so it starts with the origin.
So, well, it would start at the origin, but we're not supposed to graph this part. So do not draw what I'm about to draw. Normally, it would look like this, right?
So you just start with points.
Start when it.
But yeah, it's actually supposed to start at x equals 2 and x equals negative 2. So what I'm going to do instead of that is, should the circle be filled in?
For that, yes.
Yes.
The other one, no.
Yes. Well, actually both, yes.
No, I mean for the top one, no.
There is no top circle. It's going to go forever that way. There's no limit. I didn't draw my...
For some reason that looks like a moth to me.
Huh?
For some reason that looks like a moth to me. What? Like the dots are eyes and then those arrows are like their little antenna.
Looks like Baymax.
Moth,
Like that.
their antenna?
Yeah, you know, the moth.
Baymax.
The moth has like those leaf-shaped antennas.
Not the arrow, just the eyes. Nah. Okay, that's
That's
Looks
a bit
like
of,
a stick.
it's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
A vivid imagination, we'll call it.
Stop.
Well,
No.
well, since this is math, then instead of a lunar moth, it could be a linear moth.
William.
Can we just go on to the next?
Oh, you're in trouble now. She used your full title, William. All right.
Are we best friends with everyone?
Now 35.
What do you think?
I'm 30. I'm 31. Then 35.
Okay, 31. So they graphed it for us. We're supposed to, yeah, line paper, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick on my graph paper. So, what kind of graph is 31?
It's less.
It's an inequality and it's a line. Dylan, don't make me move you back. Okay. If it is shaded below the line and the line is dashed,
Less than.
what symbol is that? Less than. Okay, what do we find next on that graph?
Rise and rise.
Slope, yes, rise over run. So it looks like, is this a tricky one? Looks like it's going through the graph at 0, 3, And where else? 3, 5? 3, 5? Or negative 3, 1? So how far, what's the rise and the run from negative 3, 1 to 0, 3?
2 over 3.
Yeah. You have to rise 2 and run 3. So the slope is 2/3, so you put 2/3 x. Then what am I missing though?
B.
The b, which is the y-intercept. What's the y-intercept on 31? Where's it, the y-axis? Up 3, so you just put plus 3. So on 30 and 32, they're both absolute values, right? So it's y, on 30 it's y equals absolute value x something. All right. 35, this is Wednesday's assignment. Find the distance, find the midpoint,
Are the only formulas we have for distance and the midpoint?
and slope. Yeah, like the first 3 questions on the test next week. What's the slope formula? That's first one we learned this chapter. And then on Wednesday we learned the last 2 formulas. What's the distance formula?
Root x minus x2 minus x1 plus squared plus y2 minus y1.
Okay. I'm writing the simplified version without the little sub notation, without little 2's and 1's. It'll probably make it easier to remember if you don't add those on. Plus the order doesn't even matter on this. Okay. These are the things you have to have memorized. Plus we're about to use them on the problem. So what's the midpoint formula?
X plus x over 2 and minus y.
Right. Average of the x values, comma, average the y values. It's an x and a y coordinate.
For slope, would be y2 on the starting. I mean, I'm honestly just asking.
It doesn't matter. If you do y2 minus y1, you have to do x2 minus x1, or vice versa.
We just hand
But
Just keep it.
the worst possible
What is it?
way of picking up the
Bruh, pick it up. You're close enough. Thank you.
5 minutes left.
Grade 6, don't you just love your time? Oh, yeah.
Guys, I want you
All right, 35. So we're doing distance and midpoint on this. So the distance is x minus x in the square root. So it's 2 minus negative 2 squared plus negative 1 minus 7. Remember, your calculator can do that. Most of your calculators can do these completely. That'd be 4 squared is 16. We got a lot of that. 8 squared is 64. Okay, midpoint, x plus x, so 2 plus negative 2, divided by 2, comma, negative 1 plus 7, divided by 2. What's 2 plus negative 2?
0.
Divided by 2, negative 1 plus 7,
6.
6 divided by 2,
3.
so there's the midpoint, 0, 3. You guys do okay on thing we graded today, cause that is this.
Wait, I came to see you guys go.
You're only going to
36.
that is quite wrong.
This-
Did you
this-
have
this-
a
this-
process?
Mr. Jordan, we're done at 36.
No. Yeah, we're done 36.
And then.
We're gonna do 37
That's
now,
what I'm
cause Jasmine said,
Each would take. Is the other class gonna do it? Cause they did that in the same year.
It's shot.
Cause what?
Is the other class gonna do 37? Just didn't make them do it on the last page.
What if we just don't tell them,
Yeah,
and then we don't have to do it?
Yeah,
just be quiet.
Okay, are there any questions on yesterday's evens that you would like me to go over?
Yes.
Okay, Will.
18, 20, 22, and 24.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
No problem.
all of these problems, you need the slope and the y-intercept. Well, yeah, usually they give you the slope, or there's a quick way to find the slope.
Oh, this is like the only ones I understand. How do you know this?
Okay, on 18, how could we find the slope?
Use the slope formula.
Use the slope formula, right there. Y minus y over x minus x. Once you get the slope, what do?
Y equals.
You plug it in there, and then you take the coordinates of one of the points, like 2, -1, you plug that in for your x and your y,
Wait, okay.
and then you solve for b.
Wait, Mr. Jordan,
Yeah,
you said we're trying to find the slope?
on number,
Yeah, so why
18.
did you do that and not the y minus y over x minus x?
Once you you use that to get the slope on 19, and then you plug it in, or not 19, 18, and then you plug it into the slope intercept.
Okay, let me write down slope.
Your answer should look something like y. Your answer is going to be something like y equals 2x minus 5. That's not right, but I'm just saying, something like this. The slope is part of what you need. The other thing that you need is the b value, and you can find the b value by plugging in the slope and one of the points, the x coordinate and the y coordinate.
But it is 2 and -1 that we use.
Well, you can use either. You can use either one.
That is so.
But yeah, you can use 2, -1.
That's what I'm saying.
Do we do both or just
I
one?
know, number 10.
Just one of them. They'll give you the same answer.
Number 10.
Number 10, you have to solve, well, you probably want to solve for y first, so minus 4x on both sides.
On all of them?
No, just on the two sides.
Stone Steve.
Okay, hold on. Is there any other questions or now before I,
No, okay, remember minus what?
minus 4x on both sides.
What do you mean both sides?
There's two sides of the equal.